So we all heard of the line, you live and you learn. And it's interesting because I think so many people heard the line, they believe in the line, but they don't necessarily follow through on the line. And what's interesting is that if you don't live and you learn, there's going to be consequences. There's going to be something that's going to happen. And that is what we're going to talk about today, because for so many of us, we keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And we just can't get ourselves to really make the changes that are necessary. We have this belief about something makes sense doing it this way, and we keep doing it, and we keep doing it, and we keep doing it, and it doesn't change. So today, what is it that we can do? Where is it that we're going to affect ourselves in different areas in our personal life and our professional life, where if we don't make those changes, there are going to be repercussions? Because we all know that if we are not changing, if we're not learning, if we're not doing things differently, then nothing's going to change. It's famously, as Jim Rohn likes to say, in 6 years from now, you're going to arrive somewhere. And the question is, where are you going to arrive? Because if you don't change anything, it is probably very obvious where you're going to arrive. It's one of the things I love speaking to people in the beginning when they're like starting to get into like my content and the stuff that I speak about. And we're talking about all the different things that they have planned up, and they're just like doing. They're not even like thinking about what it is their, how it is that their life's going. And sometimes it's not necessarily their fault. I mean, it could be their fault, but I'm not going to blame them, because at the end of the day, they have a lot of priorities now. They've been doing things for 30, 40, 50 years already, and they're not able to make just a change just like that. But the question is like, there are going to be things that we will be able to change. And the question is, what are those things? We all know the older we get, life just gets quicker and quicker. And we have to try to recognize what are those things that we could start to implement. So when we wake up, we look back and we're like, oh, that's great. It's like one of the books that I wrote. It took me like 5 years to write. Very annoying process. And if I would have known it would have taken me 5 years from the beginning, would I have done it? I don't know. But guess what? I woke up after 5 years and we're like, oh, this is sweet. We're already looking to reprint them. And that is something that we need to understand and try to figure out for ourselves. What is it that we want to be doing? How is it that we can start to move forward and really make things a little bit different, just so we could change our life? Because if you're somebody who is not thrilled with your life, if you're somebody who is not looking forward to waking up every day, and maybe it's not every day, but once a week or twice a week, if you're somebody who knows that you could be doing so much more, and you're just not able to tap into that, we sometimes think that there's this pill that we can just take and switch everything. And the truth is, it's not how it works. We really have to do the work. And if we can start to understand that and recognize, hey, you know what? I have to do things a little bit differently. The things that I've been doing up to this point have not been working. Those investment ideas or those strategies that I thought about when I was in my 20s, and I'm now in my 30s or 40s, and like it hasn't really panned out, guess what? Maybe I need to like figure this thing out and switch it up a little bit. And we're not necessarily saying throw everything out, because I think a lot of times throughout our lives, we're building the bridge brick by brick. And we have to recognize we might just be one brick away, one idea away. But we do need to understand, is the bridge we're building sturdy enough? Are the foundations built? And if we can recognize that and see that, then all of a sudden things are going to be totally different. We're going to have a plan. And what's so cool nowadays, which I think we're so lucky to have, is that there are people who literally love talking about their process, the way that they do things. And you can buy a book, you can listen to a podcast, you can listen to a book nowadays. There's so many different ways where you can just learn from other people what it is that they did and just copy them. And what's interesting is that even when it comes to doing what they did, I think one of the big things that people get tricked in, because although we can copy them, I actually don't know if that's really the best thing to do. Because I think we all have different attributes. I think we all have different scenarios. We all have different resources that we could tap into. But I think the ideas of collecting them from different people and taking something from this person and something from that person, to be able to get really curious and see, how are all these people doing it? And how can I apply that to my life? How can I try to do that? I think once you get close enough to somebody, a mentor, they can hold your hand through it, how they did it. And I'm sure you're going to have your tweaks and the things and the ways that you do it, even if somebody's telling you exactly what you need to be doing. But recognizing that, you know what? If we want things to change, we need to change. If we want things to be different in our own lives, we have to make that difference, because nobody is going to come and save us. For so long, I was waiting. I was waiting for somebody to come save me. I was waiting for that business opportunity. I was waiting for that, that friend of mine who was already successful to be like, come on, Bennett, come and join my train. And I was waiting and waiting, and I waited years. And I was like, something's got to be a little different. Bennett, it's not working out right now. You got to do something if you want to make something happen. Bennett, you got to like step out of your comfort zone just a little bit. You can't be this little introvert guy anymore. You have to like put yourself out there. And slowly but surely, and trust me, I'm not there yet. And hopefully along this journey, I can share with you different ideas that I've been going through, and hopefully share with you things that can help you to see that have helped me. But understand that if it doesn't work, if this stuff doesn't resonate with you, that doesn't mean it's the end all be all. Keep searching. So if I share an idea and you don't like it, I'm so grateful that at least you're saying, I don't like this idea. Let me look. Let me continue to search. So understanding that is something that could be so powerful when it comes to who it is that we want to become. Because for so many people, they keep putting in the time. They keep wanting to do things. They have an equation in their head. They think A plus B equals C. But guess what? A plus B in this equation does not equal C. It equals G. And we need to recognize that if we want to get to C, something has to change. But for some reason, we're so focused on something, and this is the way it needs to happen. So ask yourself, what has been going on in your life? And it's not like just the last year, like the last 5, 10, 15 years that has not been working. Maybe it's your relationships. Maybe it's your business. Maybe it's your mindset towards money. What has not been working? Because if it's not working, then something has to change. And if you're not changing, and like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be a massive change. It could just be a small tweak. If it's not changing, then we're a little delusional to the fact that we think it's going to work. We're going to keep doing it until it works. And we have to recognize that, no, it's our responsibility to keep moving forward. It's our responsibility to say, hey, you know what? This brick wall that I keep running into is pretty strong. I'm getting a little burnt out. I've been doing it for 10 years. Maybe I should do things a little differently. And a lot of times I think what ends up happening is our egos step in to say like, no, I need to keep going. Or no, this is the way I learned how to do it. Well, guess what? Times do change. It's like, even like you could look at parenting over the past 10, 15, 20 years. And it's interesting because now that I have kids and I'm starting to get into parenting, and as my kids get older and they're getting into different stages, and the way to just parent them is so different. And I'm sure the older generation's looking back like, yeah, you guys are so soft. And it's true. But the question is like, regardless of whether you agree or disagree with the way that people parent, there's a certain reality. There's a certain luxury that nowadays kids and myself have gotten growing up. And now we have to figure out, okay, now we got to fix ourselves, because what ends up happening is that there's so much entitlement with these kids. And now we got to figure out, okay, how do we get these kids not so entitled? How can we have them appreciate things that, you know what, in other countries they would love to have? And that is something we need to try to figure out. And I think a lot of people are trying to work this out. And we have to try to understand for ourselves, what could we do differently? So yes, we should learn from the experts. And yes, we should try to understand what's going on. And maybe not necessarily the things that they did, but the understanding of why they did certain things. And once we understand that, that could be something that could shift everything. Because there's so many of us, we're so focused and we're so decided on a certain way, and it just doesn't happen. How many of us are just, we learned that like, and this could be, you got to figure this out for yourself. So this is not like any advice. This is just an example. How many of us have thought that investing in our IRA from the beginning, like however early on we can invest in our IRA, is like the best investment? It's a very smart investment. It's a very safe investment. And I'm sure there are people who are on the other side of the spectrum who says, you are wasting your money, you're wasting your time by investing in your IRA. And that is a question that you need to figure out for yourself. You need to do the due diligence and ask yourself. And guess what? We're not going to be able to go back 20, 30 years. And it could be that, yeah, it's the best investment. It could be like, who knows what's going to happen to the government, and the government just like ends up taking all your money. And you need to ask yourself these questions, like, what's the best thing to do? And if we can start to understand and learn, as opposed to just follow blindly, that could be something that could make such a difference. I remember there was one time where I had lots of cash and I was like so nervous to do anything because I didn't know anything. I didn't know what to do, right? My parents, they would like find somebody to like invest their money for them. And then I would have other mentors of mine say, what are you doing? Like, take your own money, invest it in like real estate, do your own thing. And then I did that, and then I ended up losing money. And then I'm going back and forth, and we're trying to figure out like what it is we should be doing. But guess what? The fact that I'm constantly trying. And the fact that I'm actually losing money in a weird way shows that I'm actually trying and I'm trying to do something with my money. And guess what? Every time I do that, I'm getting some feedback. And I think what happens is that for all of us, we try something, it doesn't work out, and we let it burn us twice. Number one, the way time didn't work out. And number two, the next time we want to try, we said, no, that's not for me. But it could just be that, you only knew 4 out of the 5 steps. And now you know the 5th step because you got burned. And now the next time you do it, you're going to become successful. And sometimes it might be hard to jump right back on. But for others, it might be, you know what? Okay, I'm going to give myself 6 months and then I'm going to jump back on. I'm going to learn everything I can learn from the situation. Because for so many of us, we step into a situation and we think we should know how to become successful. We think we know how relationships should work. We think we know how parenting should work. And then we get into it where we're like, wait a second, that is very different than I thought. And that is something that we have to recognize. Okay, if that's the case is that I really don't know. And I'm going to come into here and I'm going to be a learner as opposed to saying, I know exactly what I'm doing. Then we get to start to switch because every time we mess up, right? Okay, that thing didn't work and that thing didn't work. But now I'm going to do this. Oh, hey, that thing did work. So maybe next time I'm going to do that again. And then you keep doing that. And then like your kids get older and they're like, wait a second, that thing doesn't work anymore. I got to switch it up. I got to keep learning. Because for so many people, they learn one thing and then they think that's going to work forever. And that's not the case. We ourselves need to figure this stuff out. We ourselves have to understand that when we are going through life, if we're not learning, we are literally setting ourselves up for failure. Because for so long, we keep doing things and doing things and doing things. Like how many times have you been on a diet and you're on the same quote unquote diet? It's not even a diet, but you call it a diet because like you're eating healthier than like you once have. It's still like nasty. I remember like growing up, I used to have like, I used to have like whatever food I wanted and all this junk food and all this sugar cereal. And then I got married and I started eating like Raisin Bran. And that's like a healthy cereal. I was always like a healthy cereal in my family. My sister liked it. And I remember it was so funny. My wife was like, like there's full of sugar. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is not like Apple Jacks or like Fruit Loops or like Fruity Pebbles or Honeycombs or, Frosted Flakes. Like this is Raisin Bran, has raisins in it. Like raisin has to be healthy. And she was like, you're like totally missing the point. And I think for all of us, we have a certain way and a certain thing that are going on. So if somebody's been on a diet and they keep getting frustrated that they're not losing weight and they keep getting frustrated, like, but I tried so hard. I didn't eat all those things that I knew I should have eaten. And nothing's happening. It could be that our equation is messed up. Our thought, our ideas could be messed up. And that is something that we need to understand. We need to learn. Because at the end of the day, we might be frustrated and annoyed and, just like want to give up for the 50th time. But guess what? Nobody's going to come and say, you have to do it. Nobody's going to come and say, you know what, Bennett, you tried hard. You did good. I'm going to give you a nice little trophy. And we have to say, it's not working. What has to be different? And the only reason I share this with you is because it literally happens to me. Every time I'm going to lose some weight. And it's like, wake up, Bennett. You got to do something a little bit differently. Because what you've been doing is not working. And for so many of us, I think it's so important. I mentioned this, before the real estate deal that I lost money on. And I think for me, the biggest eye opener was when I was sitting down with my coach right after it happened. And he saw that I was like really not such in a glorious mood. And he came over to me, he's like, Bennett, what's going on? And I'm like, I just lost a nice chunk of change in a real estate deal. And he's like, okay, so what's going on? I'm like, I just told you I lost a lot of money in a real estate deal. He's like, so I don't get it though. He's like, that's just feedback. And like stood back in my chair and I was like, could you please repeat that? He's like, it's just feedback. And it was the first time that I finally understood this line. Finally understood, I got it. I'm like, oh my gosh. For so long, I thought that I should just know real estate. I've read so many books, listened to so many podcasts, understood all the different ways and strategies and all these things. I finally bought my first property. So exciting. Hired a contractor, fired a contractor, hired another contractor, fired another contractor. Went through the whole process, literally did everything. And it was so eye-opening to me. And that process has taught me more than any other real estate deal that I've ever done. And what was interesting is that he framed it so differently. That Bennett, yeah, okay, it's annoying, you lost money and this and that. You have to realize that was your education. That is what taught you how to invest in real estate. That got you from that jump from 0 to 1, which is even harder than 1 to 10. And for so many of us, we go through things, and whether it's somebody, whether it's, financially, or whether it's just life throwing things back at your face, we have to understand that, if we want things to be different, we got to do things different. If we're not learning, we're going to keep running into the same wall. If you're not happy with where you are right now, you got to do something different. You got to join a community. You got to find other people. You got to find mentors. You got to do something. Because for so many of us, we get so stuck. Because we get so stuck, we wake up and we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is my life. This is not the life that I expected. This is not the life that I wanted. And it's so unfortunate because so many people I speak to get so down because they just can't switch it. The hope, though, is that, we can switch it moving forward. We can't change the past, but we can learn from the past. And sometimes it might have been a 10-year learning experience, but it doesn't mean we can't move forward. It doesn't mean we can't change it moving forward. I think we could do that. I'm telling you, things are going to be very, very different for the future version of ourselves. And we're going to be so grateful that we made those changes. Have a good night or a great day. And we'll see everybody on the next one.